Level Up Latina partners with working women and mamas alike to guide them in achieving fulfilling career and life goals through financial empowerment, professional or leadership coaching, and personal wellness. Find the unique coaching you need to succeed.
You're listening to Vero, Ceci, and Irene, and we are Level Up Latina.
Welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Latina podcast. It is episode 279, and today we're going to talk about relationships. And funny enough, we thought we would title this Learning How to Fight in air quotes, but it's really not fight, but just learning to converse, to communicate. The ultimate difficult thing to do in relationships, communicate. You always hear about how relationships are about communication and trying not to have poor communication. So we are going to get into that today and all that we've learned since we have like different tenures of years with our spouses and all this good stuff. First, we're going to check in with each other. And then first, I'm going to tell the story of how today I ran into an ex-boyfriend that I hadn't seen in 17 years, which just happened.
Good
Hot
Lord.
Presses like 2 hours ago. And the funniest thing is I was like, man, we're going to talk about relationships today. I'm going to put this on the podcast. So before we do that, ¿Cómo están? We're recording on a Friday. We never record on a Friday. And we're publishing this today. We never do that. So you're just getting all kinds of innovative shit tonight. Mujeres, ¿cómo están?
Muy bien. Happy that it's Friday. Happy aquí con mi vinito brindando.
Salutations. Salutations.
Salucita. Yeah, we had paella for dinner. Yeah, we never record on a Friday. We used to guys record on a Friday, but now it's going live today. And also, en la tarde on a Friday, we never record. So you're going to get a lot of like fun nuggets, I would say, on a Friday evening.
It's
After
the
dinner
venting.
conversation.
It's going to be a venting, share it
Probably.
all
There you go.
kind of like relationship podcast today.
Vomit of the mouth.
Word vomit of everything. Ingasu. But yeah. I'm glad to be here, guys. Thank you for I'm really excited because I'm saying that my internet is working. The other day we tried to record and we had consistent technical difficulties coming from the Compton area. So today I'm glad to be here because I've been wanting to have a moment with you ladies, like very needed. So
It wouldn't be a
platicar, a
podcast.
conversar. Mm-hmm.
Sin que fuéramos las tres. So we had to wait. We had to table this, and I hope that our listeners totally get it. They need all three of our voices, Vero, Ceci, and Irene. So we are going to talk about relationships today. So I think it was so interesting. What a coinkydink that I would run into an ex-boyfriend. That was a significant relationship in my life. I was with this person for a really long time. He was the person I was with when my husband swept me off my feet and stole me away from him. Funny story. Today, my husband invites the family and I, the kiddos and I, to an early dinner. And we all, of course, were like, yeah, heck yeah. Funny enough, we were having like a late lunch, both of the kids and myself. So we weren't super hungry, but we decided, yeah, let's do it. So he picks us up. So we're heading to dinner. We're going to a new spot. He had programmed in his phone maybe a couple weeks ago, like to try this random place with a random name. And we were like, is this seafood? Is this Chinese food? Like, what restaurant is this? Point is, we walk into this restaurant. And it's like classic, like Chinese joint, like classic where, you know, you're going to share. It's even got like the Chinese motif, the little tea already at the table, the chilito quebrado, like perfect. So I'm like, cool, we'll try this. We're sitting down, and this is why I wanted to share the story because I thought it was such a funny turn of events. And I could sense that someone was staring at me. I could sense it. But this is weird. I get the EBGs when I think about it. I was telling Diego that I sensed it was a male from my past. Like I literally had those thoughts. Like I'm like,
What?
and I thought, is it like one of Steve's friends sitting behind me? It's like, I had this thought. I mean, maybe it's my own brother. I had this overwhelming feeling to look behind me, and I didn't. And then the feeling came back to me again, and I'm like, I feel like a male is looking at me, and I feel like I know this male. Like I had these literal thoughts. Like I'm about to see somebody I know. I look back. That is a crazy feeling, right? I look back, and he's like, of course, staring at me right at the table behind me. And when we got to the restaurant, Diego had said, "No, tú aquí." Diego had me face away from the door. He likes to face the door. As a gentleman thing, he likes to face the door. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see him walk in. I didn't see him.
Luis does that.
Yeah,
Luis does that too.
Very important gentlemanly thing to do.
Yeah.
Unless it's a really comfy seat that faces the door. Sometimes he's like, do you want the little couch? Like if it's a fancy restaurant. So here he had just moved me to sit here. I could sense a male figure. And in my thoughts, like you think so quickly, like seconds go by. I'm like, is Steve's friends here? Is Steve here? Is like a male here? And I look back and I'm like, hey, how are you? Like the minute my face registers that it's him. And then my second thought is, I don't look my best. I'm in my freaking sweater. Luckily, I had makeup on. I have like my flip-flops that had been lost. I found them like 2 days ago. Como somos de mujeres. My next thought was like, damn, I wish I looked like I looked yesterday when I went to work. All that. So my thought is just kind of like, how funny how thoughts are, right? So I look and I go, hey, how are you? So your natural personality comes out, you know? And then I say, hi, how are you? And I think, how do I look? Like, I don't recall how I look. Did I even look in the mirror when I finished my makeup on? And I just turned back. Like, all these thoughts flood again. So I just turned back. So then he's like, do you guys come here often? And I just let like Diego talk to him. I was just like, I'm not going to look at him. I don't remember how I look. I need to look in the mirror. And then Diego's like, no, we've actually never been here. And he's like, it's pretty good. And I think he says something like, I mean, it's full of MSG, but it's pretty good. He's like, yeah, so we're looking forward to try it. Yo no volteé. Yo was like, que platiquen solos. Yo no voy a voltear.
Allá ellos.
Luego volteo, you know? So this is funny, first of all, that I felt the need not to look back. But then I want to tell you this story, because then as the dinner went on, I had such a beautiful, overwhelming, overjoyed feeling of the following. So then dinner's going on. They start their dinner. He's there with coworkers, I think he said. We start our dinner. And then we're just being ourselves. Like before I realized he was behind me, Sophie was rattling off riddles. She was just naturally saying riddles. She had pulled up riddles to tell us. So we were just laughing and carcajeando and saying riddles. So we're still doing that. And before we even got to dinner, Diego had a dinner question. We always have a dinner question lately. And the question that Diego had asked for us to prepare before dinner was, bring a poem, a lyric, or a song that you want to talk about, why it means something to you, and share for the table. And so then we get into that question. And Noah has this whole thought-provoking thing about a J. Cole song. Sophie's all into the song from the Book of Life, Te Amo Además or something. Like really pretty Spanish song, so she translates it. I bring my Maya Angelou poem that I love, and I'm sharing about Love Liberates. Diego's talking about Go Mama, or what is it, Dear Mama by Tupac, because it's such a good show and tell song. So, of course, I forget that my ex-boyfriend's there. I forget that whole moment happened, and we're just like enthralled in conversation as a family. Y luego, me voy acordando, you guys. I'm like, oh yeah, he was like right there. That was so awkward. And then I had such a feeling of, I may not feel like the same beautiful person from 17 years ago, but look at this beautiful family. Mm-hmm. Look at my family. I had such a pride in like, this is my family. I don't follow him on social media. I don't believe he follows anything I do on social media. If any indication of whatever he saw like my family and my family discussing and conversing. I don't think it mattered if I was wearing red lipstick or not. You know what I mean? I don't think it mattered if I had my Gucci shades on, you know, and I had such a beautiful sense and pride of, this is my family. I'm so far of my family. My family is so beautiful. So when reflecting on that, when we got up to leave, I was like, I'm going to be much more polite when we get up to leave. I imagine we'll get up first, or if they get up first, I'm going to be much more polite. We did get up to leave right before them. Actually, I go to hug him. Like I felt like this need to like, take care, you know, say goodbye, say hi to your families. Like your kids are so big. And I'm like, yeah, I have one in college. He's like, you do? And I could just like see the wheels kind of spinning in his head, like looking at my kids and stuff. I go, yeah, I have one that lives in Georgia. He's like, oh, okay, well, take care. And I left or whatever. But that is a relationship from the past years ago. The last time I saw this person, my firstborn, who's 18, we were at a supermarket and he was in the cart and I was with my new husband of 2 years or something, and I haven't seen that person since. And now 17 years later, I see them. And then the feeling was first about beauty, and then at the end, it was like about family. Isn't that like a weird thing? It's like a weird, all the thoughts that went by. But I'll never forget the way I was like, how are you? Y luego me hice como que, ya, yo no te voy a ver. Yo no te vi, no estás allí, que te platique mi esposo, yo no te conozco. I'm like, that was the most awkward hello. Because as a woman, it's like, what am I wearing? What color is my lipstick? Yeah. What shoes do I have on right now? Que cabrona.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about my blast from the past story?
No, it's crazy because like, yeah, no, well, one, you're not expecting it. Second of all, yeah, uno como mujer, like, shit, ¿cómo me veo? Like, ¿cómo me veo? ¿Cómo nos va a ver? You know, like as a family. It's crazy. Yeah. Like you never think that these things are going to happen, but of course they happen. And so, yeah, like I could see how that, like that's normal. Like now you think about it and like, oh my God, why did I act like that? But it's like, no sabes cómo actuar. Like you don't know how to act. Like, you know, like I could see how that was normal for you to like, oh, hi. And then like turn back and not wanting to continue. Like, allá arréglense ustedes platiquen.
It was just so natural the way I like said nervios. Hello. First of all, the fact that I looked, like I'm like, who's looking at me? Yo busqué a la persona que me estaba viendo. That's a weird
body. Your body remembers.
Feels it. I can feel
like your body remembers.
It must.
Your body remembers.
I feel como cuando entró, probably I sensed the energy change. He was probably looking or commenting or saying, I know that girl. I think I know those people. And I could just feel all this energy. Like, I feel like I know someone behind me. Like, who's behind me? And I thought, a person from college or a person from high school, my brother's friends. And it's like, oh my God, hi. And I love that at least they said hello super like, you're the homie. But then I was like, okay, ya no te vi. I'm done.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Ya no te conozco. See the back of my head for the rest of this dinner. Anyway.
You're like, good thing I got my hair done.
For real, I did my hair. No, I didn't. I canceled that appointment. I didn't get my hair done. Man. But I love my hair because I actually did my own hair yesterday. It looks so kind of done. I just love the evolution of my thoughts that happened. I had these thoughts of like, oh my God, this is this person. They're looking at me. Oh my God, hello, how are you? Oh my God, I don't want to look at you. How do I look today? Do I look good? Am I on my A game? Why am I not looking like I looked yesterday? And it didn't matter. We went on. My family was already having a great time conversing. Then we have that conversation about like meaningful things and we're laughing and Noah's saying jokes and I just felt so overwhelmingly proud of my family. It made me think of he has a family that he was born into that I miss and a family that he has raised that's its own. I thought more about family. It goes to show that relationships change. People change. 20 years later, I dated this person 30 years ago, probably at this point. No, I didn't date them at like, oh yeah, probably. Shit. When I was 14. Shit. Damn.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. I met him when I was 14.
We are cuarentonas.
Madre. Yeah. I met him in middle school. Point is that we wanted to talk about relationships today. So that was a really weird, the energies are out there. The relationships are out there. And then I even told Diego, it really also went away, the feeling of like having to look good. But a woman, if I would have run into a woman from my past that I don't really get along with, it probably would have set with me a little more that I didn't look my A game. Something about it. After a while, ya se me quitó. Like I look fine, but a woman, would I have been like, oh my God, me va a ver las chanclas, whatever. ¿Cómo somos con mujeres?
I gotta be like, pues me vale, que al cabo my life.
Don't you want to look your best?
No, I don't care how I look. Whether I wouldn't.
Good
care.
for you, Vero. I'd be like, hold on, let me go get my Gucci shades from the car.
But I think even then, I don't know. Who would I have wanted to look my? Nah, I mean,
yeah. Who do you want to look good for? Someone
I had an ex. Well, you guys know I had my ex that cheated on me.
Yeah,
but,
I would want to run to him and look amazing.
You were, you're sitting there. You were married. I don't know if I shared this before in our podcast, but with my ex before I got wild and out about just dating and hooking up with the world. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna live my life. When I saw Jesse in Vegas, right? I was working, when I was hosting, the tournaments all over the US. And one of our events was in Vegas. So I remember hitting him up saying, hey, I'm in Vegas. And I was still single. I wasn't like anything, of course I knew this guy had, I think there's always, these people hold a special place in your heart no matter what, right? They're like, they've taught you, whether things worked out or not, they've taught you something. I don't think relationships are a waste of time. They're just more of like, okay, it's a learning experience. Let's move on to the next, right? Not so easily, but I'm just saying like, okay, you taught me something. I don't regret it. Let's move forward and grow from it. So I remember hitting him up. I'm like, hey, I'm in Vegas. And I'm like, maybe we see each other, maybe we don't. And, before I actually saw him, right, before I came down from my hotel room to the hotel lobby where everything was like fun and happening, I was like, what if we hook up? Oh my God, what if we hook up? But mind you, this has been over 2 years that we had broken up. So we had already broken up. I had already, it had been a year after he had probably apologized to me, maybe about a year that we had rekindled or re-met up, and he apologized to me about having broken my heart and cheating and all that stuff. And having gaslit me, with like, oh, when I would ask him, am I crazy or are you cheating? What's going on? Point is, when I saw him that time in Vegas, I was like, for a brief moment, as I was coming down the elevator, I'm like, what if we hook up? But I have never hooked up again if I break up with a person, I've never hooked up with them again, even after a breakup. So I was like, oh my God, what if we hook up? Because I think there was still that like, it's him, And when I saw him and we sat there, we ordered a drink and we talked and caught up on how life was going, it went away. I was like, I do not need to hook up with this man. Like, there is nothing for me to like, even like, I know it's been, I know what it was. And it was kind of like, no. And I think he was surprised because I think he thought we were. But at the end of the night, after a few drinks, he's like, all right. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll see you sometime around. I'll hit you up again when I'm in Vegas and catch up sometime. Have a good night. I'm going to go meet up with the rest of the crew. And I got up, gave him a hug, and I did look good. I was wearing like my nice jeans, heels, I looked good. And I just walked away and I could feel him looking at me as I walked away. Mm-hmm. And I turned around right before I turned towards the elevator, and he was looking at me, and he was just kind of like watched as I walked away.
His freaking loss. Have you seen him since?
No. Mm-mm.
His loss.
No.
His loss. So from relationships of the past that will come back, and it might be 2 years, it might be 17 years, but relationships from the past will come back to relationships of the present. So the point of this podcast was to talk about like how to, once you're with the person that you're going to be with, that you're going to work with and do the work with, like how do you get better at that part of it? So it was funny that, again, like I said, I don't know why I thought, let's call it learning how to fight. But, we really shouldn't fight with our partner, but learning how to communicate with our partner. So I don't know if you ladies have any hot tips or if you've thought about tips since we were first going to talk about this conversation a few days ago. But what is one thing that you now do differently now that you've been with your partner for a handful of years or maybe longer than what feels like a handful? What is something that you started doing in terms of communicating that you no longer do that you would consider an improvement? So either one of you can share. How have you learned to disagree, learn to debate? How have you learned to communicate with your partner in a way that's better?
I think one thing that I've been trying to do, and it's hard, but even with the girls, not just with my husband, is when I'm talking to them to wait until they're in the same room, because we're so used to like, gritándoles que vengas a comer, or hey, what happened with X, Y, and Z, and like they're in the other room. And I saw something a couple months ago, like when you're talking to someone, your spouse, your kids, like talk to them when you're facing them, not like you're, cause I used to do this a lot and I try not to. Washing the dishes and like, hey, ¿qué pasó con no sé qué? And like Luz's in the living room or the girls in the niñas, gritando, So I'm trying to do less of that, It's still hard and I remind myself, and Luis and I will do it to each other. We start doing it, like we won't answer, Like earlier I was like, entonces, ¿qué estabas diciendo? And he wasn't responding. I was like, oh, because he's in the other room, and vice versa. Like, I've done it to him where he's asking me something and I'm like, I'm not going to respond. I'm like, I can't hear you. I'm like, you need to come into the room or come into the kitchen so we can talk. So I'm trying to do that just to be mindful, to be looking at each other, or maybe not looking at each other, but at least in the same room so we can hear each other. We can project each other's, voice, because even in the, like, no te oye, no, you can't hear each other. You're like screaming at each other, yelling at each other. So, and with the girls too. And then another thing that we've been trying to do is, check-ins, like check-ins with each other, like, on date nights, or even, so, sometimes we did it today, like we'll end our day early on a Friday and go to like, a pub that's like 2 blocks away and check in. Like today was like all about like the summer, like what are the plans for the summer? Are we going to travel? What about camps for the girls? I was just telling Irene off record, I'm like, I'm kind of lazy with all that to plan, but it's like, we have to talk about it and like, what's the budget for that? So just that, conversations about like budgets, conversations about like, what do you want to do? Or like, yeah, we're going on this trip, but what do you want to get out of it? Like we're like last year when we went to Madrid, like he had his agenda. I had my agenda. What's going to work for a family of 4 with the girls and still get to do what we wanted to do. So, conversations about that. That's something that we've been doing.
Qué bonito. So, making sure that you set intentions, making sure that you check in and have conversations. Both of those things seem really intentional and like you're thinking about your outcome. And then I like that you said this about, speaking eye to eye, having the person be there, not just screaming and not connecting. It reminded me of if Diego and I are in the middle of something, we start talking to them and they're in the middle of something. So it's on us, the partner who started talking to someone, to like be like, oh, my bad, let me let you finish, or let me know when you're finished. And that's a skill that just through the years, you just kind of realize that then otherwise son sentimientos. We don't really say it. No one picks it back up. I was telling you, I told you earlier, you didn't hear me. Like we now have more of a conscientious, like he was in the middle of an email, or I was like literally on my phone talking to my Level Up Latina girls about something. I cannot hear you right now. I'm not listening. Like,
yes.
Me estás diciendo. Sí. So I love, Diego actually is the one who really started being like, no problem. Just let me know when you're finished. Let me know when you're done with that, cause we'll talk over each other. So, or we have to ask, like, can you pause this? Cause you're excited to say something. Someone told you, or there's just in that moment you want to say, oh, can I tell you something? Can you pause that? Or are you in a meeting? Like, so that intentionality I really love. Like, let me know when you're finished. It's a good thing. Or we don't have to talk about it right now. Like making it okay to be like, I'll just wait when you're in the room, or I'll wait when you're settled down. I'll wait when you're not busy. It seems like such a simple thing, by the way, but I could see a lot of people who fight over like an immature, like they're not even listening. They're always on their phone, but no one really bothers to have the conversation of, while you're talking to each other when you're on the phone. Like you're also choosing an inopportune moment to talk to each other, and then you're hurt by that. Like that's also a habit. So thank you for sharing that, Ceci. It really reminds me of just the whole idea of also letting someone off the hook if you know they're not ready to give you their undivided attention, and then don't making it super personal or loaded. What about you, Vero? What do you think you're better at communicating now that some time has passed between falling in love, making that first baby, to all these years later and having a different household altogether at this point?
I think I'm still really, what I'm glad that we do is we don't yell at each other. We did have one moment. That's what I'm saying. Like, I was looking forward to this episode because I'm going to take notes because I'm learning through this, right? Like, I feel that, my husband and I are like, Anna and I are pretty good at like telling each other stuff or like communicating. But we've had a little hard time. These last couple of months have been really hard on us. And not just the last couple of months, but I think this last year has been really rough when it comes to that communication. And I feel that sometimes it's like, when you have outside influences in the sense of like work, the way work is, you're dealing with work. And if you don't have like an outlet to someone to be able to share how things are going, things like that, I think it really creates, tension at home where it's not really necessary. So right now I feel that things I've learned is like, I'm thankful that I'm very kind of like not quick to jump on a thing and be like, fight about it. I'm like, okay, I make a note of it. I'm like, I need to address it at one point when I know that I'm ready to talk about it. Because one, when I get emotional, I cannot get the words out, right? I just can't. And I think I've shared it before that I'm more comfortable now than having to wait till we're in bed and the lights are out. And then I could be like, hey, you know what's bothering me? Because I'm at that point, we're too tired. We're both too tired, right? So
yeah. ¿Y para qué te duermes con eso,
So I'm like, no. So now I'm just like, okay, wait for the right moment. And it's just been really hard recently for us to find that right moment because we're both working. Ideally I was hoping, if I go back to work, I'll probably be working remotely and I have all this time and the reality of the situation is not that. And I feel that I get home and there's things that have been frustrating me that I could tell that, he's frustrated at work, and to be able to open up a conversation about, hey, I know that we've been pending. This has been pending. Let's not forget about it. It's kind of what's been working. Like, hey, I know we have this pending. Let's make sure we do talk about it. Let's make some time. And right now we haven't had the time. I was just telling you guys off air that there's just things that happen and life happens. And sometimes it's like little emergencies. Sometimes it's little other things, but you get pulled from what is really important, because you get distracted by other things. But I think right now it's just being really, as patient as possible to find that time. I'm being patient. I'm being understanding because I'm like, okay, I know that he has a high stress. He mentioned this before, and I know that I'm going to have to take on a little extra, right? And be a little more patient until the time is right, but not let it go. I feel that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't wait till we have this conversation because I want to be able to get those tools as well, because I'm at that point in my marriage where we're like, this is important. We're going to need to talk about it. And I want us to make it through that 5-year crunch. I think that's what they talk about, right? I think that's something that's a thing. And to me, it's really important because if you listen to our podcast and if this is the first time you listen to us, like, my relationship is very different than how it started compared to you, Ceci, and to you, Irene. You guys dated your partners. You guys had all this, had that moment to kind of know each other and share your dreams and share your aspirations before you jumped into, or to your goals that you wanted in a family and in your partner. And for us, it was kind of like, boop, it all just happened, which are things we both wanted. But now it's like, oh, that's how you work. Oh, that's what you do. And that's how you react to this. And it's learning all of that from this partner. It's like dating and being married all at the same time while raising kids and working and trying to make it happen. So it's really hard. But right now for me, it's just like, fucking Vero, breathe and be patient, because we did have one outburst and it really was like kind of like I think because of the stress, it was like very reactive, and I could have been reactive as well, but I chose not to be. And it's not like, oh, I'm going to pat myself on the back for being the bigger person. It was just more like, this is not the time for that. If this is something, if you obviously are upset that this is the first time I've seen you yell.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to yell back. I'm not going to yell back.
Good for you.
Because there's no turning back from that.
Yeah. My goodness. Vero, like, good for you. By the way, ever since you went back to work, your stories that you tell, the way you're communicating, something about work is working for you, girl. I don't know. Is it just me? I'm like enthralled, and I was already enthralled by you because you're so funny and you're always just tell it like it is. But I'm like, man, something about the way Vero is articulating herself these days. I don't know if there's something about you being with a bunch of adults all day long.
I was
Pero me fascina.
She's with
Me
adults
fascina. Me fascina.
versus like those niños.
Me fascina, me fascina. I love it. And she's looking good. She's dressing good. She's feeling good. So she's just... this is meant to be as a compliment. By the way, I liked both versions of Vero. But lately, I've just been like, yes, Vero, I am drinking out of the cup you are stirring me in. So Vero said patience, which I love, and I have 0. And one of the areas that I've grown as a human being and a wife and a person and a mom is patience. My goodness. So thank you, Vero. Patience is key. Finding the time. I love the vulnerability that Vero has shared with, like, I'm still figuring out there's tension here. We have outbursts. Boy, I love that Vero can say, there's one. I have a closet full and then another closet and then probably another closet full of outbursts in my home because I have learned the hard way to improve my ability to communicate with my husband. So Vero, we all have at some point or another paid our dues, whether we dated at first or didn't, or however you framed it. Todos hemos aprendido, I think, something from being in it. So I commend the 3 of us warriors for being in marriage as long as we have been. Pat ourselves on the back for that and learning from that time because no es fácil. Ceci opened her thing with, first of all, it's hard. So we want everybody who listens to remember that this is not a competition or a race, or never feel bad when you come to this podcast because we're all at different levels and we've learned different things. And you might be getting a story from Vero or Ceci or Irene at a point where they've worked so hard to be telling the story now, how they are now, but they were not this person 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago. So in my case, I think the biggest thing I've learned in communicating with my partner is some of the stuff Ceci said with having check-ins, talking about it when things have settled. Vettel said that pretty much too. Like, you can't always talk about things in the moment because it's too hot. And I think that's what check-ins are. Like, don't bring it up when the emotions are high and you're feeling emotional or hurt. It's so hard to do, by the way. And as mujeres, we want to be strong and tough and like stand up for ourselves. I know I was raised really, to just stand up for myself and be seen and be heard. Maybe it's the baby in the family kind of thing. But I really learned to be like, it's okay. I can bring this up later. I can let this go. One of the biggest things I've probably learned in my marriage is just let it go. Like, I can let things go, talk about it later. Don't tell myself a story. A greater mind told me this. Like, I love Brene Brown, and she has always talked about sometimes you get into things with your partner because you're telling yourself a story, and then you're fighting with your partner about something they didn't do, they didn't say, they're not feeling, but you think something, and then andas ahí peleando. And so one thing Brene Brown said to do was to tell your partner, like, the story I'm telling myself. So it's not you don't love me, or you don't listen, or you don't help me. Like, the story I'm telling myself is that I really need a lot of help and I'm drowning. And sometimes I do feel like you don't help, but I'm sure you want to. Is it that you want to? I need help. And the story I'm telling myself is that you don't want to help me. Then the partner will be like, no, I do. And this is how it comes across. And one good thing that my husband and I have tried to work on is for many years, I would tell him, you don't even care. You don't care. You did this, so you don't care. And my partner, in his wise wisdom, because he's so much more calm and patient, like Vero and Ceci, he's always told me, I know that it may be coming across as I'm acting like I don't care, or I'm making it seem like I don't care, but I absolutely do care. And I love that he was able to make that distinction between his caring is one thing, how it's coming across is another, and he validates if you're feeling like that or seeing that or experiencing that, that's not that it's true. Of course I care. I'm sure that I'm doing things that are making you feel like I don't care. And examples, because we don't want to be all cryptic. It's like, girl, give us the tea. Like, give us the tea when this fool didn't care.
What is it?
My husband is like a dreamer, and he will always come up with like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do this. And then he would get over it. And I was just telling someone at work the other day, like, I'm more of the like, if you say we gonna do something, I got the pitchforks, the knife, the gun, the bazooka. Like, we're going to war. I'm ready. I said, be that. The next day, he's like, no, girl, what you doing? He's got a suit on. He's got shoes. It's like, I got a whole armor because you said we were going to war today. Like, I'm the opposite of my husband. It's like, see, he's dreaming. I'm already in the dream. We're going, I'm already going. So we used to have a lot of problems around, babe, but you told me, and we said, pa este mes, o pa este día, or en este modo, en este, and it's like, I did, huh? And it would just go away. You just forgot. So good examples are, I told you guys that at the beginning of the year, we have a workout plan. It's on the board. Mom over here is like impeccable. I did check boxes. I'm doing the workouts. They're coming and going. He's strong. He's trying to hold strong, but he's had some weeks where he's gone. And in previous years, he'd be gone. Like, he'd be over it. He put his whole plan together and he's over it. And that used to cause so much tension in our relationship. You tell me, we're going to work out, we're going to this, we're going to that, and then you're over it and you forgot. Ya no quieres. Y yo ya gasté, ya invertí, ya lo hice, ya compré, ya. And I'm over here running the race that you don't want to run anymore. So that used to be such a huge point of contention. But now, instead of it being where I'm resenting that and not communicating that and not talking about how that may be going on, we have visuals. We don't have to say it. I don't have to say it. There's a visual. Like, he's seen, like, I'm lagging behind or I didn't do it this week. And then we have check-ins. We're going to have a quarterly check-in that's a little longer. We are forcing communication. We are looking at how we're doing. We don't have to have that conversation. And we are telling each other when we feel like we're letting each other down. But in the past, we would do that as a fight. And now it's more of it's unemotional. It's not personal. The story I'm telling myself is this. We said we were going to do this. It makes me feel like you don't care. Like, just changing those words, ladies, like changing the way. And all of us need it. And our partners don't necessarily do it. We communicate so differently. So finding the way that they're going to communicate. I think we've said this on a show before, but you may need to send yourself an email, send yourself a text, have a weekly meeting where you talk about the things that pissed you off all week. And you talk about the problems, and you talk about concerns in an unemotional way. But those things have all sort of helped our family. They've come hard. They've come from us making mistakes and not communicating, letting each other down and holding resentment. But that was just a little tidbit of an example of a place that I feel we've grown and we've learned to quote unquote fight. When we fight though, so now this conversation is going to change a little bit. It'll be the last question, but we all fight. So if you're in a fight, how is a fight different now than a fight before? And I can go first because I know that you got to think about that a little bit. We all have disagreements. We all have, Beto said, tension. Like, where have we grown? What do we have differently now that we do when we're in a fight? And bring the tea if we can. My example would be Diego and I got into a fight once. And I want to figure out who was quote unquote wrong so I could tell this story right. We got into this argument once where he said, the problem with us is like, you'll start out at 1 and then I'll hear your tone and then I'll go to 3 and then you'll hear my turn and you go to 7 and then I hear and I go to 10. Or sometimes you started at 1 and I jump to an 8. So then you're like, I'm going to be a 12. So there was this funny ladder, the way he described, like something happened. Oh, it was, okay. We were driving in the car. We were in Georgia. We were driving in the car and I had compared him to, I think, one of his brothers in some way. And he had said that what I was saying was like a negative thing. Yo de veras, I was like, no, I wasn't insulting anybody. Like, the story you're telling yourself is like that I'm insulting you because I said that you're like your brother. And it may have been his brother that kind of lets things go. I don't really remember I promise I'm not just bullshitting. I don't remember the details, but I said something and I wholeheartedly was like, boo, like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. Like, you're kind of overreacting. Like, and that's insulting, right? People are like, don't tell me I'm overreacting, right? So like, it was like escalating. And I'm like, wait a minute. Usually I escalate this. Like, I am wholeheartedly not trying to insult you. When I genuinely compared you to this person, I genuinely meant like, no, it's not loaded. No, when you say that about that person, this is what you think about them. And so you're trying to say, I'm like, you're going really high on the Richter scale. And it was a good lesson to learn how to fight. Like, dude, yo empecé en un innocent like 0, because I really didn't feel I was being offensive. But if I was, maybe it was a 1 or 2. And you went to level 8. Lastimado, and luckily I'm catching myself, because si no yo voy a level 20 y estamos peleados todo el viaje, right? So it's a cool thing to have learned to catch that, like, if you are starting to escalate, like, find words for each other, or find a quote, or so we'll tell each other, like, 1, 2, 7, we'll just randomly say numbers from, like, tell each other, like, oh, your tone, my tone, oh yeah, I'm thinking something, I'm saying something, and it's not that. Like, because oftentimes when we're overreacting, it's loaded, it's about something else, it's not about that moment. And that conversation with Diego on that drive was really cool, because luckily I was on my, like, I'm cool, I'm chilling, I'm not hurt that he's getting upset that I said something that I really feel. I'm like, I really feel, babe, like, I really feel, I'm not trying to offend you, I don't know what I said, your tone, the way you said, no, I really feel I didn't have one that time, I know I have a tone. And by the end of it, he was like, you're right, I think I was doing that thing, and I get to 6, and I just gotta catch myself. And that's the new thing we say to ourselves, like, I gotta catch myself. And then, you guys, we give each other grace. Like, these little code words you gotta come up with, like, I gotta catch myself, because that's accountability, right? Like, oh shit, did I escalate? Like, oh, did I make it worse? Did I think something? Am I mad at the kids and I took it out on you? Am I mad at my mom? Am I mad at work? That happens so much. Vero alluded to it. I'm having a day at work. I'm like, Diego, I just gotta tell you because I just want to vent and I just want to get it out. And he knows, like, oh, she wants to complain about work for like a split second. Because if she doesn't get it out and later she's mad about me and you're just like the people at work. You know what I mean? It's like, we have to have these coping mechanisms que se nos salga. Y si nos sale mal, to be like, what's the code word? Like, what are we going to say? And not be like, you need to calm down. Girl, you gotta chill. Why you get so mad? So many relationships are saying stuff that's like, that's just throwing people over the edge. Never in the history of telling a woman to calm down. They go in our first 5 years of marriage would always tell me to relax and calm down. I was like, the beast is coming. Like, don't tell me to calm down. You know, like that. See, that already se siente, right? The 1, 2, 10, you know? So that's one skill with fighting that we like try to catch the other person and be like, dude, I didn't try to get you to a 4. Maybe what I said was a 2. I'm about to go into an 8 rage. Like, we need to find the middle. We need to find
I'm
the middle.
still petty.
Dumb.
I'm still petty. I'm
oh,
still petty.
Man, it's so
but
hard not to be
like,
middle.
No. It's just like in the sense of, I would tell you, we haven't really had arguments where we're like, yelling, but it's more like, where I know my husband gets frustrated with me, right? And I know he's just like upset and he's coming at me and he's like, see, I told you, it's not just this, but it's all the time, like you with this. And he's so quick to like go back to that moment of like, that's what I was talking about. And like, he's very much like, he can do that, right? And there's times where I'm like, you know what? I get it. Yes. Yeah. Okay. But then there's times when he gets like that. I'm just being very, very petty. I'm like, yep, you're right. You're right. I guess I am just this. I guess you're right. I guess you're right. You know, and it's more of like, yeah, tú quieres ganar. Se nota que quieres ganar. Te voy a dejar ganar porque tú sabes todo.
And then he's like, why won't Vero fight me? Why won't she fight me? Why is she agreeing with me? And now I'm like, oh.
And I can walk away. And the thing is that me before would engage like, hold my shit, hold my earrings, and I will delve in just the same way, like, fuck it, con los ojos cerrados, however, I would just throw punches. And now I'm like, it's so hurtful. It's so hurtful that I'm like, I get the pettiness sometimes. I sometimes can brush it off where I'm like, yeah, tienes razón. Sí, pues valió madre todo. Valí madre. Tienes razón. No sirvo para nada. You know, like, yeah, you right, you know?
Yeah.
But I know that tengo que sobrepasar eso. Tengo que superarlo. Pero it's hard to sometimes get to that point, you know? Hard. But I'd rather do that than like engage full on like, oh, really? Well, let me throw some fucking, you know, bombs at you too, right? Cause younger Vero wants, like, I'm like, oh, he's like poking at her. Like and I don't want her to come out cause it's going to be like, ooh, que chingados, you know? There will be no marriage. If that Vero comes out, it's like, ¿sabes qué? Me voy con mis hijos, te quedas aquí con todo tú. Chinga tu madre. You know, like whatever. Yeah. And I know that I'm like, there's just no going back from certain things. So yes, there's times where I'm listening to you and like I'm at the point. So like some of our listeners that maybe are also like, in a sense, newlier weds.
To us.
To us, right? Compared to like, you know, you and Ceci's kind of like that middle age, right in between. I feel that these are things that we need to learn. And it's just more like when we are able to give us that ourselves as a couple, that moment to find the code word, to find the things where I get it, or this is frustrating. This is what really is bothering you. Okay. How can we get to a solution faster than making a bigger problem out of something small?
Yeah. And I love one thing you said that like Otto will tell you always, never. One thing we learned is like nothing is always and never. And that will just piss people off. Like, well, you always, well, you never. Like truly nada en la vida. Come on. Like, I mean, always and never. Like when you argue.
I always sometimes never do this. What? Okay?
I always sometimes never do this. And that's perfect because that's a total contradiction. And like, it's not an always and a never. Like things really aren't always and a never. And you have to find that grace. You really have to find that grace for your partner to be like, I want to say that they're always like this, but it isn't true. And I want to say that they never do this, but it isn't true. If you're with a partner, by the way, we should have started with a disclaimer. Like we're trying to come from a place of fairly healthy relationships, no abuse, no cheating, not to our knowledge, fairly reasonable behavior here.
Que nos digan, because we are not going to be reasonable.
Oh my God. Yeah, no nos digan. Don't tell us if you saw our man cheating. No, but like if you're in a relationship where you really feel like you're being like verbally attacked, abused, hurt, disregarded, gaslit every day, like, yeah, you got to get out. But if you're not in that, and we're talking about a relationship that's trying to thrive and trying to get through these years of marriage that are complicated and trying to be better communicators and love each other, and deeply care about each other and are trying to make it work. Like, this is more the advice for that, because the foundation's got to be respect and love. And then there's going to be problems. There's going to be problems. But always and never isn't real. So if you're yelling always and never at each other, like, try to find a moment that's not true, because that'll dissolve conversation. But tu, Ceci, what do you think you do different now? If you are arguing, if you are fighting, whatever you would call that, maybe you don't fight, maybe you are having a heated debate. ¿Cómo has cambiado? What have you improved?
I'm a little petty
Ceci, the
también
lawyer.
como Vero. But poquito, because you know what I have said in the past, and I feel like the last time I said it was probably a year ago, maybe 2. But I've said like, maybe I'm not the wife that you need, things like that, like, see,
Yeah.
like, oh, you need another type of wife, or I'm sorry that I can't keep up to your standards or whatever, things like that. And I'm like, ay, cálmate, now like I'm estaba riendo por eso. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've said that. Ya no he dicho eso. I've also been the one to like raise the voice, and like, why are you raising your voice? No need to do that. I don't know. I just feel like when I raise my voice, maybe I feel like I'm making my point more, como que más stronger. But no, I try to tone that down. So I've changed with that. And then I'm also, where like, say where you've gotten into an argument, like, yes, pues I'm like, ay, no quiero que me toque. Like, I don't want to be hugged.
Yeah.
Like, quítate, or like, or when we're like trying to make peace, that he, comes to hug me or whatever, I'm like this. So like, I don't hug him back. But now I'm like, no, because like something about like, just, they say like couples should be hugging no sé cuántas veces al día, so then that helps, because I feel like, okay, when I do hug him back, I feel like, okay, like, yeah, it's the anger, just the tension it melts away.
It does.
So yeah, just being more, I don't know, more calm, cool, collected, and maybe taking a breather. I also write things in my journal, like things that are bugging me or that I want to bring up. I write them down. I've shared this before. Like, I have a therapist, and so I'll write things down. Like, oh, I want to talk about this with my therapist and bring this. Like, oh, my husband and I had an argument about this. I know in the past year, I felt like he felt that I was like gone a lot, because mentally and physically, I was helping my mom, and it's just like my mind and my heart was there. And I just like, and I, in my mind, I thought I was like juggling it just fine and trying to balance it all. But I know that, maybe I was needed here more at home, and, Luis had to be with the girls, and like, si me iba yo, like with my mom or with my parents, just to help out and just be there. Like, I would try to leave the girls behind, because then I would have to be, it was like double the work, like girls, and then with my mom. And so there was a lot of that too. But now that's, no longer there. I feel like this year I've been trying to be more intentional to spend more time here with us in our city, doing things. I les conté, like last week we went to the Chinese New Year parade, and we've been living here ever since we got married, and we had never been. So cositas así, just to bring back that, like, I don't know, be in harmony.
Qué bonito, qué bonito. Mm-hmm. And it's good that we've, I think, given details about those moments where like our partner may say something to us, and it's like, yeah, we may respond in a petty way back, but then also, you saying, I'm not the partner that you need. If I've ever said that to Diego, my husband is such a logical arguer that, oh my God, it's like impossible to argue with him. But he'll say like, well, that's very dismissive of what I'm asking for with my needs. So it's like, oh my God, like he always like a comeback like a lawyer.
What do I say to that? Yeah.
I know. Oh my God.
Well, you know what?
That didn't work. That didn't work.
I know.
Like, he is so into semantics and tone and words and meanings of words. Like, I swear to God, I have to have a thesaurus. Pero él, maybe that's why I'm very articulate and I have a great vocabulary, because this man, if he is in a debate with you, he could have been an incredible lawyer, because he can win an argument, but like with logic and calmado, and he won't raise his voice, and he's very kind and diplomatic. So it's like, I'm losing, like, I'm going to use no logic and only anger the way I grew up. No, pero, that's funny.
Because that's the right way to win.
Yeah, no logic, all anger. No, but it's an interesting, like, we can all sort of be petty and hope that they don't meet that pettiness with our pettiness. But also, I wanted to say my whole point in that really was also fighting escalates in moments of drama and stress. When you're under stress, financial, emotional, family, as much as you want to take care of your family, mujeres, because earlier off air, we talked about family and dynamics and them being there for you, you being there for them. It puts a strain on your marriage. It does. losing family members, caring for family members, growing a family, having young kids. The logistics of a household put you under stress. So your communication, based on everything going on, is also going to go up and down, because when things settle in and it's not so chaotic, you're going to have patience. You're going to communicate. You're going to feel less stress as an individual. So also some of this is also a moment in time. And it's something that you're going to have to learn to figure out if you are, in fact, overwhelmed financially, you don't have enough hours in the day. There's going to be a problem in your marriage, because if you're doing everything that is asked of you, especially when you look at social media and you compare yourself, you're working out, you're taking kids to every freaking activity, you're part of your family, you're helping them, you're supposed to have sex, you're supposed to look sexy, you're supposed to run into your ex and look amazing. Like, my God, something's going to give. So tonight for me, you know what, ex? I'm wearing these flip-flops, and I wish I wasn't, but I am. But I have a beautiful family. I'm communicating lovely with them. We're picking our battles today. So I did want to say that piece about it too. Like, communication is strained by outside things. And so it's good that you and Luis have now started to talk about like those times with your mom. Like, you didn't realize he brought it up. You can be more intentional. Also, it was absolutely normal for the time. Vero going back to work right now. Her kids being in school right now. You know, demands on elderly parents, which all three of us have those demands. We don't want it to blow back on our marriage, but it will. So I think being conscious is number one. Number two, the tips that we talked about. So to wrap up the episode, the tips that we talked about, hopefully you'll take one or two nuggets. If you resonated with any of our stories, hopefully take from those nuggets. It was a Ceci nugget, a Vero nugget, an Irene nugget, but some of the things we said were like planning to converse about difficult things, but not in the moment. Calling it a check-in. Is it weekly? Is it once a month? You know, do you write it down in your journal? Do you bring it to your therapist? My goodness, great advice, Ceci. They can help you think through what you're feeling. It might be a story you're telling yourself, like I said, that isn't really real. Like Vero said, walking away, being conscientious, knowing I can't blow up because there's some things you can't go back from. I love that Vero, she tries not to raise her voice. She tries not to yell. That's amazing. Ceci was like, I do yell. Irene yells. In my household growing up, we raised our voices. Do I do that? Not much anymore. I've learned to not. Like, it doesn't really go anywhere. I don't want the kids to yell at each other. I swear to God, as your kids get older, you really have a mirror and you do so many things better. Because as my kids have aged, I have chilled out because I just want them to be well-adjusted humans that don't go out into the world angry and fighting and all that stuff. But there is hope. I'm telling that to Vero, who's like, my babies are little. There is hope. That's why we were on this podcast with all these three different perspectives. If you want more from any one of us or this conversation to have a part 2, drop us an email. Our email is admin@leveluplatina.com. Send us a DM. @leveluplatina is our handle on Instagram and Facebook. And very quickly, because I said we would talk about it, I'm going to quickly give you a summary about our beautiful 6-week Mastermind Collective. You got to get your spot to our Mastermind Collective. It's a 6-week series that starts on March 5th. So 3/5/25. It's going to go for 6 Wednesdays. It will be at, I believe, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard. So it's 8 o'clock Eastern, so that women can join in right after work or in the evening after dinner. This collective is going to be amazing. You can go to leveluplatina.com. It's right on our homepage. You can also navigate over to events and learn about what we have to offer. This is an incredible offer. It's not expensive at all. You get to experience 3 coaches plus a community. That's why it's a collective. And this community of women is working together on their personal goals. And maybe your goals are better communication. Maybe your goals are surviving marriage. Maybe your goals are raising your kids to be well-adjusted. Whatever your goals are, they may be professional, they may be personal. The collective is a really great place to think about those goals over 6 weeks. Don't get away from it. Don't go unconscious. Stay conscious of what you want. So 6 weeks with incredible women, being conscious of your goals, conscious of little changes. You don't have to have big goals, by the way. You can have little goals, which is like, I'm not going to yell at my husband for 6 weeks. Help me, ladies. So join the collective. Go to leveluplatina.com. Ask us questions about the collective. You want to know how it's different than coaching. You want to know what our activities are going to be. We'll give you a sneak peek. We won't give you all the nuggets, but we'll give you a sneak peek. And if you're not completely sure about the commitment on the collective, just buy the webinar. Buy the Manifesting 101 webinar. It's also on our website. Super inexpensive. It'll give you more information about the collective. It'll get you excited. The Manifesting 101 webinar has some nice tips and tricks to stay motivated for the year and bring all the goodness into your life, like beautiful communication. So that is it. It was a mouthful, but I promised 2 things. An episode today on Friday. Here's your episode. And we promised to tell you about our collective on this show. So you're going to hear all about it again next week. But until then, thank you, ladies. To happy communicating, which we do very well. We've grown a lot. We used to not communicate.
We have.
We are practicing what we preach, people. We are truly practicing what we preach.
For sure.
You guys can text any one of us and be like, tell me about that other girl in the squad. How did she? And we'll give you all the tea. We read each other's DMs, so nothing is private. Las queremos mucho. Don't forget to level up. Until next time. And you just keep looking good with your working self over there.
Thank you. Besitos.
Ciao.
Ciao.